tonight. For the past year, 5 years, he's had his own interview show with public broadcasting. Would you welcome him, Dick Cavett? Dick.
David.
David.
Just ask the first question.
What is this? I have a feeling I've missed something back
You
there.
have been doing talk shows longer than I have, Dick. What are the rules on what makes a good interview?
Did you know they kept me in an isolation booth backstage for this surprise? Well, let me first say, David, that I don't know why 8 out of 10 critics have said you're effeminate, because I don't see it at all. And I think it's admirable the way you've borne that. What was the question, please?
Again?
Yes, something about talk
You
shows.
have been doing talk shows longer than I have.
Yes.
Believe me.
How do you manage to make it sound like you're reading that?
Because I am.
Rosemary, I'm back. I'm
Sorry, we're doing a show out here.
We have to, very nice job, Rosemary. I
Thank
certainly appreciate
you.
that. Thank you for your help.
Tried to joke me.
You did a very nice job. I'm always, whenever that sort of thing transpires, I'm always not amazed necessarily, but impressed by her composure.
I am too, but you know, she goes from show to show and does this all the time. She certainly fooled
You did
you.
a very nice job. And Rosemary, we have nothing for you. I'm sorry. Maybe Dick has a little something for you. Thank you very much. That was darn nice of her. Welcome to the show, Mr. Cavett. How are you?
Oh, gosh. You can call me Mr. Dick. Because,
Mr. Dick.
I'm not... I mean, the age gap between us is certainly not the same as between Carson and myself, for example.
What would you adjudge the age gap to be?
You know, I don't really know. By the way, is it insensitive to use the word gap around you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're almost out of time, Dick.
Amazing how it flies, isn't it? No, you see, I don't know your... I realize I don't know your age. I know you're well over 20.
Well, you know my weight, and that's all that really counts in the business that we're in.
Yeah, I guessed it once at the state fair years ago. We go way back together. But you astounded me by telling me that you wrote me a letter one time.
Long time ago. I had, when I was working at a local television station, I'm not sure how interesting this is to anyone out there or even to us as I tell it now, but...
We can judge from the reaction.
Yeah. I wrote you a letter inquiring as to how a guy like myself could get into big-time broadcasting, and you were kind enough to write back and say, you know, get a cab, pal.
Yeah.
No, it was actually a very nice letter, and that I was so impressed by that I now also try to do likewise when, although I don't get many letters like that.
Did I send you the Dear David Letterman form letter?
I think it was, yes. The serial number 08, it was what I got.
Well, it scared me when you started to say it, because I thought you were, of course, going to say, and you never answered, but of course I understand, and so on. But apparently I did. I'd love to look back through my files now and see if I could find that letter.
I have it somewhere, but it's been shuffled around with other mementos and probably gone now.
Really? I saved all your letters.
I've been a very big fan of yours, and I loved your book, and we have many things to cover here this evening.
That's right.
Not the least of which is the event of the weekend past. Suddenly, I'm waxing poetic, aren't I?
Yeah, I hadn't noticed.
And I'm referring, you tell them what I'm talking about, and we'll get into that in a minute here.
Yeah, David is referring undoubtedly to the Night of 100 Stars, a phrase everyone must be very familiar with by this time. And we were both lucky enough, I guess you'd say, to be there. I don't want to appear too jaded, but I thought it was pretty much like any other Night of 100 Stars.
Yeah, it was.
I've been to.
I think doing them twice weekly has kind of taken the edge off of them.
It was astounding. It was like, I don't mean this in an insulting way to any of the people there, like a trip to the Wax Museum. I mean, I mean that because if you've been to Madame Tussauds, you know how incredibly lifelike and vigorous all the people look. And
Yeah.
it was really fun. I did see something with my own eyes that was wonderful. Betty Davis was standing there with that wonderful way she can plant herself so you feel like two strong men couldn't lift her off the ground, but she's just standing there. And a lady approached from her right side and said, "Hello." And she turned and said, "Hello." And she said, "How are you?" And Miss Davis said, "I'm all right." And the lady said, "It's me." And Miss Davis said, "Yes." "Liz." "Uh-huh." "Liz Taylor." And it was Liz Taylor.
Right.
There were 100 funny things happening backstage tonight.
And we'll get back to cover some more of those right after this. Good morning and welcome back to the show, as we like to call it. So we do. This is, of course, Mr. Dick Cavett. And coming up later in the show, we have Cutman Al Braverman and a movie maker whom you know, Howard Smith, put together a film a couple of years ago called Gizmo. He'll be here with some of that video for us.
I suppose when they come out, I move down and then on
You can move
down.
anywhere you like. You can go up there and sit with Rosemary if you're a mind to. I would love to go on talking about Night of 100 Stars, but let's move on and maybe we can come back to it. Yeah, anyway, when I first knew you, or knew of you, I started reading everything I could about you, and there was this wonderful story in Time magazine about how you were hired as from a copy boy to the Jack Paar staff.
Yes, and it was true. It sounds improbable, but it happened about 28 feet from here, I would think, outside that door.
I think there's a plaque there now.
Yeah. and they spelled one of our names right. By the way, Jack Paar's star is spelled wrong, one of the many misspellings on the Avenue of
really?
Stars, you know, in Hollywood, with the double R. But I was a copy boy over there. I shouldn't tell this story, and you'll see why.
Okay.
If you don't already. And I saw in a column, Jack Paar worries more about his monologue than the whole rest of the show. So I thought, that's strange. I got about an hour or two. Why don't I write a Jack Paar monologue just to see what it's like? And if it turns out all right, I'll take it to him. I did. I put it in a Time envelope, thinking that might impress him, whereas they might throw me out otherwise. And I got in the underground from the Time Life building over there into this place, came through the turnstile. And I remember thinking, it's the only time in my life I've thought this is a turning point, perhaps, in my life. Upward or downward, I wasn't sure which, but a turning point. And I came out, and with the luck that you only have in a bad script, I ran into Jack like that, getting off the elevator, and I said I rewrote, came out like rewrote, a monologue for you. And he looked at me very suspiciously and sort of said, okay. And then he said, oh, Time. And I didn't want to say I'm a copy boy at Time, because to be on the custodial staff has more prestige than to be a copy boy. And so I said, yes, I'm with Time. And he took it in his room, and then I heard him saying to his secretary, Mitsumi Travers, is this funny? And he read out a couple lines, and fortunately she laughed. Bless her. And I saw him in the elevator afterwards, contrived again. They'd be in the same elevator with him. And he said, you ought to do that again, pal. I mean, that was so...
Yeah.
To make a long story even more tedious than it's likely to get. I did, and I got a job with Jack writing many, many jokes.
Was he fun to be around? That must have been a very exciting show.
He was, and he was scary to be around because he has a nervous intensity that was half of his great charm and intrigue on camera, what Kenneth Tynan called that sense of danger in Paar that made you think you might see a breakdown on camera of some sort, or didn't know what was going to happen next. And so I always had butterflies because I admired him so much and didn't want to disappoint him. You know, I'm sure as your writers feel.
I haven't gotten any sense of that yet.
Well, at least have butterflies. Whether they're their own or not, I don't know. But it was exciting. And, of course, there I was within grasping distance of all these legends that would appear on the Paar show. First time we went to California, and there was Skelton and Hope and everybody I'd ever dreamed of being anywhere near.
Yeah.
There they were.
We're going to find out more about there they were and who they were and why they were there, as a matter of fact, and other non-pertinent information we have to pause. We'll be right back. With Dick Clark. And we're getting ready to rate a record, so Dick Clark.
This is not the first time this has happened.
You know
to
why
me,
that
by the
happened?
way.
Because you leaned over to me and made a reference to the ball, and I can remember this is the night of the 100 Stars, seeing Dick Clark
And there was
and
Dick Clark.
Dick
Yeah,
Clark was,
it happens all the time.
I'm awfully sorry.
Now, I know how you feel, Bill, because you're probably very worried that...
There's, I got 90 different things here I want to ask you about. I think what I'm going to do here is tell me about your early days as a stand-up and how you met Mr. Allen, right in there. Anything
I
there?
have nothing to tell you about either one of those things.
Okay. How did you vote in the last election?
But seriously, now did you didn't have to go through that, did you? You didn't have to. You
Oh, I
didn't
did,
go
yeah.
to. I mean, in New York, in the Greenwich.
No, I did it in
Village,
Los
Greenwich
Angeles,
Village
yeah.
and that kind of thing, where you went to the bitter end and then the village gate, and if between those two they'd let you go on at the Candle House or whatever you do your thing there. But years ago, I went through that because I had seen Woody Allen go through it, and I thought that inspired me, and so I thought I'd go down and do that. And it was murder. I remember my first night at the bitter end. I can remember the sensation of sweat. I believe it's called flop sweat in our business, damming up over my eyebrows as I delivered what I thought was my comedy act. And occasionally it would, the surface tension would break and it would come down and there'd be a saline solution in my eye. And I went on. One lady found it very moving, she said afterwards, and somebody said, "Congratulate the young man who lectured." And I have never forgotten that.
People who don't know it, and there's no reason that they should know it, it is the worst embarrassment a human can suffer, I think.
I know, if there were only a way around it, if only you could think, I'm going to go out there and hope I bomb, and try to see the humor in it.
Yeah.
Because what person in his right mind would force himself on a group of people into the most brightly lighted part of the room,
Drunks,
and
usually.
presume to amuse them, in their inebriated state. But I was very good at ad-libs. I loved that. I got into an ad-lib session with a lady went on for about 15 minutes one night at the Bonsoir, because, they yell out, things like, "You're not funny." Right.
Subtleties.
And then, I'd seen that happen to Noel Coward once, and he came right back with, "Up yours, Baldy." And, it was really...
It's very nice.
So I wrote that down.
Yeah, kind of a capper there. I really appreciate you coming here tonight. It was a pleasure meeting and talking with you.
Well, let me just say seriously that this is the most fun I've ever had on your show.
Well, good. Dick Cavett, we have to pause here for station identification. Howard Smith from Gizmo and Cutman Al Braverman will be here. Welcome back. My next guest is one of the foremost practitioners of the art of interviewing. I have admired this gentleman's work since his old daytime show on another network. He recently has had his own program on PBS, and this season will be the host of a magazine show on home box office. Welcome, please, Mr. Dick Cavett. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Nice to see you again. Thank you for being here.
Sorry I had these on.
Would you like to leave them on?
All about... No, I hate to be recognized in the wings. And do you mind the way I'm dressed?
Not at all. Well, I know you have a little ascot there. Is that right?
A little ass... What'd you say
right
I
there.
have? I don't talk about your anatomy. No, I do have this... I'm trying to get a... See, last time I was here, I had on a leather jacket. And a lot of people didn't like that. They said, "That's not you. And what were you trying to do? Be Marlon Brando in The Wild One or something, But I am trying to get a more macho image. Several times lately I've been mistaken for Sally Field. And I thought I should do something.
Well, I'm not sure that the little kerchief helps.
Listen, I aim to please. Who wants it? Hands? Eat your hearts out. No, they're your people.
They're very nice folks. We get the best studio. Not that I've done a lot of shows, but we get very nice studio audiences here.
You do, yeah.
Cheap applause. A little cheap applause.
And very modest,
That's
too,
right.
I noticed. Don't mind applauding themselves.
I mentioned your daytime show on the other network, which I enjoyed a great deal. And how long ago has that been that was on?
You were in Knickers when that was on. We mentioned last time that you wrote me a letter at that time.
Oh, we don't want to do that again.
That would have been 68.
Yeah.
1968 it began, and ended in 1968, as I recall.
Was that a good experience? You enjoyed that, or frustrating at all?
I loved it, but it was awful. I think you've been through the same thing, where suddenly you're taken from nowhere, or Indiana, or Nebraska in my case, whatever, and suddenly, maybe you had 25 people in the world knew your name, and now 25 million do. And you're just like a guy in the surf being hit by a wave and knocked over and up again on another show. Thank God I got through that one, but what about tomorrow and another one, and you sleep rigid, that arc with only your heels and the back of your head touching the bed. And the alarm goes off and you can't swallow food in the morning and you have to go on again and you don't know what you're saying and you look at a guest and realize he's going to stop talking in a moment and I don't have a clue what he's been saying. It's just, that's the way it was for... up until about 3 weeks ago.
But the show, and of course you know this, regardless of your feelings of going through that tension, was wonderful. It was a really nice, pleasant thing to have on daytime TV.
Apparently it was, and a lot of women who had nothing on in the daytime to, can I rephrase that, who had no programs that they were... There are a lot of intelligent women out there. Now, God knows I never tried to do a show for highbrows, but they said we liked hearing that debate between, say, Gore Vidal and Muhammad Ali or whomever on the show. And they really were bereft when the show went off. It was very touching to read the mail.
A lot of these shows that were on at one point are now being recycled and syndicated. Is that a possibility for you in that show, or is there any?
No, because some ass erased all of the morning shows. I found that out. I was supposed to get an approval of whether they would or not, and it kills me in some cases. I mean, I don't feel that everything I did was gem-like, but I had Groucho and Harry Ruby together. Judy Garland's last appearance on television, and a lot of things that I would love to see again. The only form they exist in is some fanatics around the country who had early reel-to-reel recorders have written to me that they have some of them. I taped a few, and I think Joplin made her first and only talk appearance on there, and a lot of people of that time. Spiro Agnew, for example. I don't know what that's an example of, I'm not sure, but... and the wonderful moment in television history, I got more mail about this when I had Timothy Leary on, back when he was very hot in the, and very controversial in those days. And he had his new book, and he waved it and said, this is the way, the LSD and the whole thing, and the Old Testament is just a lot of old kooks on a bad trip. This is the new Bible. And I said, I really think you're full of crap. I'm on the air.
Right.
Well, the audience applauded until the following Michaelmas. And I felt ashamed that I got such a big hand for that. If I'd said it to Agnew, they'd have cut it out. But because I said it to Leary, they left it in. And it would have applied in both cases, clearly. But, yeah, I miss a lot of things about that. But aren't you supposed to not look back or something?
Geez, I don't know.
According to Satchel Paige, anyway. You never look back.
I want to talk to you some more about your relationship with some of those folks you mentioned, in particular Groucho Marx, and we'll do that. If you don't mind, we have to go away. But
no, I'll be here.
Back. Okay, fine. We'll all be here. Mr. Dick Cavett, I wanted to ask you about Groucho Marx, and you can't be tired of telling us how that relationship began, I guess?
No, I met Groucho at a funeral, strangely enough. Now, when you think of a funeral in the Marx Brothers, you figure them, going through throwing fruit or something. But
dropping a pie in the box, maybe.
Yeah. But it was George S. Kaufman. Groucho referred to him as his god. It was his funeral, and I went to it. And I had no business being there. It was at Frankie Campbell's. And I just had always wished I'd met Kaufman. You know, it's been wonderful to have him on a show like this. He was on with Paar a couple times. Anyway, I went to the funeral, sat in an anteroom. It was mobbed, and as I looked around, there were all the surviving people of that era. You know, Edna Ferber, Dorothy Parker, Mark Connolly, and the round table set. And I looked, and there was Groucho Marx. And I realized, until you see a legend, you don't really believe he exists. You know, I have no reason to believe that Clark Gable actually existed in 3 dimensions, because I never saw him. But there was Groucho, and I realized what he'd meant to me all these years. And he had a cigar, not lit, but you know, sitting there. And as he left, I contrived to run into him on the corner of 5th Avenue and 81st. And this has been repeated a lot, but I said to him, with a great inspiration that I always have at moments like that, Groucho, I'm a big fan of yours. And instead of the numb response that he must, you know, he said, oh, really? Well, if it gets any hotter, I could use a big fan. And it was, see, the fact that Groucho said it got a laugh.
Yeah.
And from then on, we were friends. It was Puerto Rican Day Parade. I remember we were walking downstage. He insulted everybody he saw. And there was a man with a very iridescent suit and a tooth with some gold on it. And he looked at Groucho, and he burst into a smile, and Groucho said, tell me, is it true you were cutting sugar cane only 2 years ago? And the man laughed and went, comedy! And Groucho insulted all the doormen, and then he said, in the voice I knew from the quiz show, you know, well, you say me a nice young man, and I'd like you to have lunch with me, eh? And I couldn't believe it. I was walking on air. And he took me into the plaza. We had lunch. And he would be serious about things, very, you know, profound, one of the best red men I've ever met, next to Robert Mitchum. Mitchum is the best red actor, or maybe of anybody I've ever run into. And Groucho had just met T.S. Eliot. He was reading the novels of Iris Murdoch and, you know, compensating for, I guess, what he thought of as a lack of education. But then he'd be Groucho for an instant. The head waiter came over and he said, do you have any fruit in the kitchen? I mean, besides the chef. And I really loved Groucho. I called him once on Father's Day. Suddenly I called my own father, of course, first, but who, by the way, has a cigar that Groucho once owned, and he never smokes it. He keeps it in a shrine, I think. Did you ever get to meet the great man?
No, I didn't. I get the impression that there was a genuine friendship here, aside from a professional one. You had him on your show several times.
A lot of times, yeah. And he would call me when he was in New York, and I would always get that slight goose flesh feeling of that's Groucho Marx.
Yeah.
He knows my name.
Yeah. Did he must have influenced your comedy and your writing and so forth?
Don't you think he influenced anybody who remembers him or ever saw him? There's a certain delivery, a certain way of wording a line, a certain, well, an attitude that was wonderful. And I reran for some kids up at Williamstown in Massachusetts summer. I did a play up there. And a lot of the apprentices got together and said, would you bring your Groucho, the one famous hour you did with him where he was your only guest? And some of them hadn't seen it before. And he said something in it that hadn't struck me so much at the time. He talked about something that he later said to me privately about Red Skelton. He said, you know, he has complete contempt for the audience, as if that were a virtue. I mean, it sounds sort of crude at first, but I think it has to do with a certain kind of attitude you almost have to have total confidence, even if it's false confidence, to go out and say, I really don't care what they think of me. It's hard to get that, especially when you're crying and urinating when the monologue doesn't go well. But I think Groucho had it, you know, in the good performer sense.
Let me, we have just a few minutes left, and I do want to ask you about another story, and forgive me because I fear that it's well-trodden ground again, but
what's that?
We refer to somebody dying, not doing well in a circumstance just like this.
Comic coming out and
yes,
dying.
Sir.
Yeah.
It actually happened on your show, didn't it?
No. Yes, it's not funny, and yet it's hilarious. A man dropped dead while I was interviewing him. And he was a health expert. Now, if you wrote this in a... See? People are laughing at death. In the face of death. Right. And he was a fine man, Mr. Rodale. By the way, I don't buy the idea you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. I don't think dying makes people better necessarily. But he was a great character, and he published Prevention magazine. He came out. He said, so help me, Hannah, I plan to live to be 100. I've never felt better in my life. He gave me some asparagus cooked a certain way and so on. And Pete Hamill, the next guest, came out and was into about his third sentence, whereupon Mr. Rodale died. And it was horrible.
Have uncontrollable chortling in the back over
Yes. Must be your ghoul friend. But frivolously, folks. And it was a nightmare. You know, I found myself, I stood up and I took his wrist and said, "Are you all right, Mr. Rodale?" I didn't know how a wrist is supposed to, you know, how a pulse is supposed to feel. And the audience was laughing because they thought it was a joke, because it went like this. Do you want to change your mind about this audience?
Have you, we have to go here, but have you seen the videotape of that since?
I saw it about a year later. It was horrible the next day to go out and do a show. And watching that tape a year later was a weird mixture of feelings, because there he was, alive. You know how tape looks live and real, and talk. And you knew that the man was in his last minutes and didn't know it. And it was very, very strange. I'm the only talk show host so far who's had anyone literally...
Yeah. But if the guy had been an entertainer, what a great setup and punchline. I mean, what a wonderful way to go up.
Yeah.
Just to say, I'm going to be here till I'm 100, and then he just...
And then...
Yeah. What a wonderful way to go.
The whole life builds to that one laugh.
Absolutely. The gentleman, of course, you know, is Dick Cavett, and we're going to meet in a moment or two
Singer Frida?
Singer Frida. Thank you very much. I want to thank our studio audience for being here, also Mr. Dick Cavett, and of course Father Guido Sarducci, Paul Shea from the Ben, and Bill Wendell. Now, our last guest tonight certainly needs no introduction. She is an international superstar, and we're delighted that we could have her appear on our show tonight. Please welcome Frida.
Hey!
We have a fine program for you here tonight. Let me get the official rundown. Of course, we mail these out, and you can check them off at home as we get to them. Dick Cavett will be my first guest, and I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. Also tonight, we have a tour of specialty stores of New York, specialty shops. Stephen Wright will be here, and also Ron Silver, a fine actor. Now, my first guest had a dinner date with Greta Garbo, it says here, but canceled it in order to be here tonight. It makes you go slack-jawed, doesn't it? Please welcome Dick Cavett. Good. And not a minute too soon.
Oh,
Welcome
boy,
to the program.
it's good to be here.
You
Yes,
look good.
I've been worrying about this appearance for 3 weeks.
Oh, on pins and needles, I'm guessing, eh?
Who fell out?
Now, let me ask you about this.
Okay.
Now, you don't mean to imply that the only reason you would be here is because of a late cancellation, do you?
Well, no. It's just that I overheard in the hall, there are all the 20 people who came here hoping to see Dustin Hoffman, and I'm not upset at all, because,
No.
you know, I was doing my paper route and I needed the exposure.
This is an interesting introduction. Do you know anything about the origin of this? At a dinner date with Greta Garbo.
Well, they actually they called and asked me to come on, and I said I can't really because I'm so busy. I have so many things to do. And then they called back and said you were pouting and fretting,
Yeah,
and,
I was.
and so on. So I thought I would. Called Garbo, whom everybody's wanted to meet, and I said, Gretz, it's off. And here I am.
You've never actually met her, have you?
Yes, I have.
How so?
I met her on the street. I followed her. This is true. And by the way, she might be watching. She watches a lot of TV. I'm told she's seen my show, be that as it may. I read an article about her in Esquire. There was a map, unfortunately for her, of where she lived.
Now,
which I
this is
won't
not a good
repeat.
thing.
No, that's
no.
an invasion. The
Yeah.
public has no right to know these things. She lives at 314. And I walked over there, and in the kind of improbability that you would put in bad fiction, there she was, crossing the street toward me. This is all the God's truth. I had been told by a doorman, "Oh, you wouldn't recognize her. She looks like an old washerwoman with her hair." Mm-hmm. She looked like Queen Christina. It was Garbo. You could tell it from 3 blocks away. Steichen said she has a face in 10 generations, the way the light falls and so on. And I did one of these. Did I lose you now? I was walking, and I saw her, and I went in the air. I actually skipped a step. Your breath goes when you see Garbo. And I thought, I've got to have contact with her. She went into the Little Garden Superette. Can you say that?
Yeah.
And but there are a lot of them, so you don't go into all. I had her in a cul-de-sac, I believe it's called, a dead-end aisle. I panicked. I thought, I'll be a husband who doesn't know what he's shopping for. I picked up the nearest piece of edible stuff, and I said, "Is this an artichoke or an avocado?" And she said, "Artichoke."
Oh.
And I've never been able to hear that word since without coming all over strange. Yeah. And that's a true story.
But did you follow it up and say, well, of course it's an artichoke, and I'm Dick Cavett, and
no,
come on over? And
I wasn't Dick Cavett then. I had never been on television. I was hoping to be an actor. She was very nice. I listened to Garbo check out and tried to buy the little thing that she had signed, and they wouldn't sell it to me. And I followed her home. And that's been probably the most intimate part of our relationship, has been that moment with the artichoke. I've hoped always to see her again. It's a thrill when you see her.
Well, she's on Tuesday night, so...
Garbo will occupy this chair, eh?
I don't suppose that'll happen. Now...
You know what? Oh, did this tell you that my book, which will be called Eye on Cavett, will be published by Arbor House in August, or by any chance?
Well, let's just take a look, Dick. If you want to stop the tape, we'll see here.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, published in August, sure.
Well, that's out of the way, so we don't have to consider this.
Well, no, I was going to give you a choice of what to do. We have, of course, we don't actually have the book, but I'm guessing when the hungry book buyers of America finally get around to shopping for it, there will be something to go in here.
I don't detect a note of anything in your voice, do I?
But it's all we have is the little cover here.
That's a mock-up. I'm not too happy with this photograph because it makes me look an awful lot like Robert Redford, and but I may pick another one. But anyway, that's sort of a mock-up for the salespeople.
Now, what I was going to ask you about is, do you want to talk about your book? I also noticed you brought paraphernalia here.
Well, I felt sorry for you because I know what it's like when there's a last-minute booking change, and you think, who are we going to get, and so on and so on. And I took up magic as a kid, and so I have rope for you and rope for me in case you took up magic.
No, I never took up magic.
You didn't?
No.
It's not too late. And if all else fails, if we start going into the...
Oh, no, I don't see that happening, but it would only be enhanced by this.
It would, yeah. So it's there, and if I should say anything, or you should, that by any odd chance would bomb, as we say in the trade, let's go right for the rope.
Okay.
And do our magic, shall we?
Okay, you should have been here for the mail. Now, and also I do want to cover a couple of interesting things here about your forthcoming book.
That'd be okay.
We got to go away. We'll be right back with Dick Cavett, and Greta Garbo will join us. Dick Cavett is here. If you're thinking of going to bed, just forget that, because later Ron Silver, Stephen Wright, and a tour of specialty shops right here in New York City. It's important work we're doing.
It is, yeah. Now, why would they think of going to bed with you and me to watch?
No, it was only a way to get in the other mention, and I forget what I was saying altogether. Now, you and I are roughly from the same part of the country. Is there anything that you possess, mannerisms or speech patterns, that people would cause people to remark, you are a Midwesterner, or are you from the Midwest?
That stumps me. Let me think. Yes, I know one. Tomato. I cannot bring myself to say tomato juice. I always feel affected. And if you say, I want some tomato juice, they say, you want the tomato juice with ice or without? Easterners say that. And then I know...
Easterners, actually, I've never heard anyone say tomato juice. Anybody here ever said, in all seriousness?
Never.
No? Well... What a collection of nerds.
No, hey, hold it.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're your audience. No, there are things like that. I think the thing that used to give me away, first when I came here, everybody in New York sounded like the old, if anyone's old enough to remember, the telephone operators on the Jack Benny program that talked like that. That's how New York sounded to me. And also, Jewish words would throw me, because people would throw one into speech,
Yes.
and I wouldn't quite know what they meant. I remember that.
You had the great joke, didn't you? The Goodson-Todman game show.
Yes. What was it? Oh, I hope one of us can recall it.
It was.
Oh yes. When I came to New York, I thought Passover was the Goodson-Todman game show. 2, 3, 4, and this rope is very easy to But let me tell you this.
I ruined the joke, by the way, because I gave the punchline.
That's all right. You're
Yeah.
under a lot of pressure.
Yeah. No.
But the thing is, I remember when the stage delicatessen.
Yes, sir.
It isn't the old stage that it was, but when I would go in there, that was a dead giveaway, because I remember I had heard people order, and I wanted to order like they did, or as they did. So I would say, the first big blunder was, "I'll have the corn and beef," and then I heard it was corned beef. I learned to say that, and then the guy asked me, the waiter, the one who recommends something and then always says you wouldn't be sorry. You wouldn't be sorry. I said, "I'll have corned beef on rye." I knew to say rye because white bread would immediately give you away. And then this was an awful day when he said, "What do you want on it?" And I was stumped, and I said, "Mayonnaise." And the guy, I'll never forget, he yelled to another waiter, "Oi, Gavalt, mayonnaise he wants!" Then Gavalt started to laugh. It was awful. People had told me, perhaps with a trace of anti-Semitism in their voice from the Midwest, it's if you're Jewish, it helps you in show business. I carried the newspaper forward sometimes around with me, but gave myself away because you could see my eyes going in the wrong direction. This was always a big piece of material for me in my nightclub.
And how did the rope trick do in the
and
nightclub, Dick?
Do you want to try this?
I'd love to try it. I know
Really,
virtually nothing about
I
magic.
really did not prepare this. I think we may have to stand.
All right.
But people have seen me do my rope trick in a number of places.
Now,
and
Dick, is this going to work? I realize I'm much taller than you, but will the trick work anyway? Is that the problem? Come out here. Hope that this doesn't...
how do they...
Gee, I hope this doesn't ruin the trick.
I do too. Incredible. 8-inch heels? Where do you get this? Now, I've often wondered how you... Well, I'll ask you later.
Okay.
I was kind enough to bring 2 pairs of scissors, and I've never tried this. I hope I don't disgrace myself in front of my magic buddies. But here's a thing that...
Your magic buddies?
My
That sounds a funny expression, you and your magic buddies.
sounds like something you wouldn't admit to.
That's right, I wouldn't.
Hey, my magic buddies. I must watch that. Jerk this one so they can see that it's not stuck together with some gum or tape
Okay.
or something like that. And it's soft rope.
Yes.
Now, here's what I used to kill them when I used to work in church basements in Nebraska doing my magic act. Do as I do. I'd say, I'm going to take a rope and I'm going to cut off one end.
I'm going to take a rope and I'm going to cut off one end.
Why is it funnier when you say it?
I don't know.
Now, I know that's amazing, but I'm now going to cut off the other end. Watch. And then I'd say, oh, I left out something. That's what you're supposed to say. So now I have a rope with only one end. So you can say that.
So now I have a rope with only one end.
Yeah. And you say, now I'm going to cut off the other end.
Now I'm going to cut off the other end.
Looks like a dull evening, doesn't it? Now, of course, we have a rope with no ends.
That's right.
Rim shot. No. I never saw a drummer refuse a rim shot.
Actually turned him down. He said, no, we're not going to do
So
it.
then...
Now, wait a minute, Dick. Let me see. We're getting signals. You want to
but if
complete the
cut-
trick
if we
here, or
cut,
should we?
Then they'll think that we
Okay, well, all right.
gimmick this.
I guess
and
we have to move
so
right along
right
then.
So you have a rope with no ends, just a center, and that's here in the middle, right? And you show them like that. Now bring the center up between your fingers like this and just sort of hold it there like that.
Well, now I'm gone. I don't know what the hell that is.
No, you're holding one end, and then I bring the center, hold it in that hand.
Oh, I get it, okay.
Yeah, let the rope hang vertically. It'll always hang vertically. Now come in there and grab that. Just bring that up here, that loop, and hold that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Like this. Look. See, we went like this. We brought the center up and we grip it in our hands like that. Okay? Like
Oh,
that.
I'm confused.
Now
What's
cut it
going
right
on?
there. No, just
Cut it right there.
Now,
Okay.
no, if you let one end drop, that gives you 2 new ends, right?
I don't know. I tell you what.
You've got 2 pieces.
Now, will it
But
ruin
here's
the
how it
trick?
was
We
going to
don't-
go. If
we
you
have to
cut
go
one end
away
off
here.
and throw the other end away, and like that, you were supposed to end up with 1 piece of rope like that.
All right. Very nice. We'll be right back after station identification. More with Mr. Cavett. Very nice. Good evening. Welcome back to the show. Let me tell you who's going to be here Monday. Actor Ed Asner, NBC Shoeshine guys Joe Tempone and Floyd Jackson. One from the East Coast, one from the West Coast, and many, many other surprises. And later tonight, Stephen Wright, Ron Silver, and Mr. Dick Cavett is also here. When you go out to places, and you do go out, I see your picture in the magazines at functions and so forth.
Sometimes, yeah.
Do people want you to entertain and do rope tricks and so forth?
Yeah. They don't ever point out that I'm short, though.
Well,
I've
that
never
was
had
terribly rude of me. I'm
anybody-
sorry.
but I
Just a
figure
cheap joke.
Couldn't get Dustin Hoffman. You go under the under 5'4" list and see who you can get. No, yeah, doesn't that annoy you when people say, "Oh boy, David's coming. He'll be cracking jokes all evening," and you don't want to crack jokes. And then at other times, I find from knowing Groucho that I think, as all comedians do, I think I'm Groucho, and I go down the street and say what I think are terribly funny things to people. There was a sidewalk vendor the other day. I said, "I don't want to buy a sidewalk." And nothing. I mean, less than that. And then the guy had one of those silly little cars that goes, and I said, "Aren't you a little old for that?" And he said, $6.95. You know,
Yes.
not aware that a joke was in the air at all. And Groucho influences everybody that way. This a friend of mine, Steve Stoller, who used to work for Groucho, and we were on a plane together, and he said something, I would say, you can be the judge, worthy of Groucho. Something we've all heard many times. How do you take your coffee? And he said, orally.
Yep.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
But people do want you to be on. I'm not sure what it is. How do these people know that we're not, at this moment, Joe Piscopo and Rick Moranis, the 2 guys who imitate us?
Geez, I
That
don't
would be an
know.
interesting
That
thing,
hadn't occurred
wouldn't
to
it?
me.
That'd be the true test. Do you find it a little flattering but also insulting to see a guy do an impression of you?
I'll tell you something that's really unnerving is if you meet somebody who looks exactly like you.
Yeah.
The actual thing. The real tragedy for that in me is you end up feeling sorry for the poor human the rest of the night. Oh, my God. It's,
I usually give them a dime or something.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
And-
I meet an endless list of people who say everybody tells me I look exactly like you, and I don't.
No, I've
see
never
it.
seen anybody who looks like you, honestly.
Nor are you.
If that'll make you rest a little easier.
But I'd like to, because it'd be nice to have a double. You know, you could do all kinds of tricks and things with them. But I never have seen anybody who looked like me, and yet a guy on the street gave me a picture of himself who said he was my look-alike. And I left the picture on my desk, and my secretary said, "When was that picture of you taken?"
Mm-hmm.
But when that guy, do you find it funny when Piscopo does you?
Yeah, generally, sure.
Having a grand time tonight,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Well, the other guy does my vocal mannerisms, and it's flattering, I think, that you have an impression done of you, but at the same time, there's something vaguely insulting, like you could be replaced, or if somebody else can do you, then you're not an original or something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
It makes you cringe just a little bit, and makes you very self-conscious of your gestures
Yeah.
and things that you do. But you seem to, you know something I've never heard you talk about? How do you, I think it'd be inspiring to people, how you have gone on the way you have with your handicap.
The handicap being...
Well. No, in fact, they said no guest has ever had the nerve to ask David about his handicap and how he overcame it and has gone as far as he has. And I just wondered.
No, handicap being...
Doesn't he realize?
What is it?
I'm
Is it-
sorry.
is it obvious to
should
everyone?
we change the subject? I'm embarrassed now, honestly. It is, isn't it? Have you ever talked to him about it? Oh, just immediate family.
Something
I'm very
terribly
sorry.
wrong is transpiring here.
That's a thrower of a question, isn't it? I once designed an interview.
Well, of course, yeah,
would,
sure, yeah. You're getting back at me for saying that I was taller than you, obviously.
No, come on. They know we jog together in the park, that we make fudge together. That we're
Yeah, we do.
buddies.
We make
we're
plenty
sort
of
of
fudge.
magic
We're
buddies.
magic buddies. We're magic buddies.
But I once sat down and wickedly devised things that you could ask people that would really throw them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that would be one.
Well,
What's
see,
your
this
hand?
didn't really throw me because I assumed you had a killer joke to go with it. And when that didn't happen, then I thought, well, now what do we stumble into here?
Well, that's an example of your handicap, making assumptions. But that's a wicked thing to ask people.
Now we have to go away, and now people are going to say, well, Cavett got snotty and they dumped him. Now, that's but that's
And I can see on the card that it says Cavett, one more segment. So if I'm not here, you may come back.
phone the authorities. We will be back, though. Welcome back. Dick Cavett is just on his way out, and, but we're departing on good terms. And the book Eye on Cavett, and if there's not a book in there, it's a nice folder for your important papers. So look for that Eye on Cavett in August.
You've been very big about everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dick Cavett. Nice to see you again, Dick. Now, where am I going? Oh, I hope we still have some more of these. All right, finally, here's an experimental model of a proposed missile with a very specific objective. This is called the celebrity-seeking missile. It electronically seeks out and destroys any famous personalities in a pre-programmed strike zone. We've test-fired it for this demonstration. Oh, good Lord. Run for your lives. Heading toward the door now.
For her, something recently, and that she's.
Oh my God! The celebrity missile. Oh, I'm spilling my coffee.
That's our visit to the Museum of Weapons. We'll be right back to meet the New York Dairy Princess Jenny Taybolt and her cow right after this, folks. My next guest has been on this program many, many times before, but I believe this is his first visit as an author. This is his latest book entitled Eye on Cavett. Welcome, please, the man who wrote this book, the man whose picture appears not only on the front, also on the back, and virtually every page inside. Please welcome Dick Cavett. Don't let him dance.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. There were 2 requests in the line.
Nice to see you, Dick.
Wait a minute. Do you know what I did?
I know what you did. You hacked up a wad of phlegm.
Come on. Yeah, I did. You say that to all your guests. Could I have some of that? I wonder.
Sure. Help yourself. Oh, you really do have a little there in your, yeah.
A bug flew into my throat, Baxter.
I have to Heimlich you.
Say, this is classy. Gargling, phlegm.
Let me say something about this book. This is my own impression, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Your first book, which was, what was your first book entitled?
The first book
Oh, this is serious. You're in trouble, aren't you?
This is a true coughing experience.
Call the nurse. Candy, go get the nurse. We may have trouble for Dick here.
There.
Wow.
My first book. My first book was entitled Cavett. I thought of this title on my own.
Okay.
And it was a huge bestseller.
Let me just say something, and then we can go on. Now, you in that first book, early on disclaimed or mentioned the notion that people thought, why is Dick Cavett writing a book? He's a young man. At the time, you're only in your early 30s and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The book turned out to be, as you mentioned, a bestseller, and also very, very entertaining. Now, I'm guessing that there were equally skeptics, some skeptics about this book, saying, another book from Cavett?
Yes,
Cavett, but having read it, I can attest to the fact that this one is also very entertaining.
Let's hear it for David.
Thank you very much.
That's very nice. From you, I'm very glad to hear that. There are opinions one values and opinions one doesn't.
Well, I enjoy it.
It's a much better book than I thought when I was writing it. I don't know if you ever had that experience of writing something and at the time thinking, nobody's going to like this. And as you say, there were skeptics, and I was one of them, because Chris Porterfield, who's my co-author on the first book, was mainly the reason I did it. But I always have a terrible fear that people will think it's ghost-written, or that the writer, you know, it's always as told to Pete Martin in the old days, that he wrote it and they looked at it, or maybe didn't. But he's an editor, and I write. But I said I did one book, and I don't know how I got through that.
Well, there's some great stuff.
How can
in
I
there.
do another one?
Let me talk to
He
you
gave me
about
37 subjects, and
I thought the first chapter was a terrific idea. You going back to your high school for a reunion.
Yeah.
And I thought the most unique aspect of that was not only did you visit with close friends and stuff, you went back to visit the homes of people you were not particularly friendly with in high school.
That's right. That maybe evolved from an idea I had once to take. You do have a tissue. I sweated from coughing, and that
Nick,
looks
you've
like
come to
a
the right
malaria
place. We have
victim
these
sitting
late night
there.
with David Letterman facial blotters.
Oh yes. And
You blocked to your heart's desire
It
there.
hurts me to see you peddling these in the lobby after this show.
Well, we have to pay for the giant vegetables, so we do
And the
what we
giant
can.
fruits are even more expensive, I'm told. It was not intended to be a joke, nor did it come anywhere near being one. Where were we?
Visiting folks in your hometown.
Oh, yeah. I once had an idea. This probably crossed your mind, too. Take the nastiest hate mail that you've ever gotten. You communist faggot pig rat ass, you know, and go to their door in Mason City, Iowa, and say, well, here I am, and see what the writers of those letters would say. That's not what I did in this case, of course, but I did go back and visit some people that I'd always wondered what happened to.
Talk
that I
about
went to
the
school
young
with.
woman who you admired in high school but didn't really want to associate with because you thought the cool guys would
Yes,
ostracize
I don't
you.
even know if she knows she's in the book. But her name is Wilma, and it was in the early days of school. She was considered not somebody that was in the top rung of society in school. You know how those arbitrary gradations are. And yet I was interested in her because she was theatrical and she did plays, and a rumor she had written a novel and so on, but I could never ever, you couldn't afford to be seen with her if you considered yourself among the upper set. You know how the silly things go. So I went back to see her, and I went to her door. First I went to the wrong door, and then to her door, and she came out, and there was this lovely woman who had been kind of a joke because her name had been Wolf, therefore inevitably she was Wilma the Wolf.
Right.
You know. And it was that she had developed into something very, very attractive, and when I told her that I had always fancied knowing her as a kid, and how attractive she was now, and so on, and so on, and she had had a short career as acting and acting.
Had not
modeling.
worked out like she probably would have wanted it to.
Yeah,
right?
and gone back to live home, married, and had children in Nebraska. And she said, as I left, she said, I might have something like gone to my grave and never known this.
Now that was very
It
interesting.
was very touching.
Yeah, it was interesting that, not that it shouldn't be important coming to you, but
Yeah.
it was the impact of having a man on national television saying this to her.
That's
I thought
right.
was very strange.
Yeah, it's you can never get used to the fact that you are famous because you feel the same size as you always did.
Yeah.
You know, and you see the impact when they push people aside to give you a table. It's always embarrassing. But I wonder if you ever had the dream. I have had recurrent dream that you go back to your high school now that you're famous, and no one notices or cares. I've had this dream about 20 times. My psychiatrist says it's a rich vein. And they don't seem to care, and the same girls I couldn't get dates with still go out with Dick Bond and Tom Craig, even though I've had a national television show. They don't mind.
There are some other nice moments in that chapter, other people you visited. Also, I think one of the funniest things in one of the chapters you're talking about George S. Kaufman, a man you wish you had palled around with.
I know. When you think that across this corridor he came in and did the Old Par Tonight Show, and he was Groucho's guy.
Legendary writer, playwright, screenwriter.
Yeah, playwright, and great wit on Groucho's level.
Yeah.
Groucho's greatest compliment, he always said, was that Kaufman said to him, "You're the only actor I would trust to ad-lib in what I write." And Kaufman wrote much of their stuff. And I think you probably liked it as much as I did. A moment he was on, This Is Show Business.
This is the one that I really got a kick out of, yeah.
It was a panel show in which there were 3 panelists every week, and celebrities came on, sat down, and said, "My problem this week is that I can't seem to find overshoes the right size," and so on. And then they'd get up and do their act, and the panel, the 3 wits, would comment on their problem. Eddie Fisher came on, and he was then Private First Class Eddie Fisher, young singer, appearing at the Copa, and said, "My problem is that I am so young that the girls at the Copa where I'm appearing won't go out with me."
Right.
And then he got up and sang, and Clifton Fadham, the host, said, "So-and-so, you comment so-and-so." Mr. Kaufman. Kaufman was a very dour, I think it's pronounced, fellow with a mop of hair and very sort of sour. He's called the gloomy dean of comedy. And he took a long pause and he said, "Mr. Fisher, on Mount Wilson, there's a telescope that can magnify the stars 16,000 times the size and with maximum resolution of any previous telescope before that one was built. And Mr. Fisher, by this time people think, has he lost his mind? Did he? On Mount Palomar is an optical instrument, a telescope, that can magnify the stars 12 times the size of the magnification and resolution of the Mount Wilson telescope. And Mr. Fisher, if you could somehow put the Mount Wilson telescope inside the Mount Palomar telescope, you still couldn't see my interest in your problem."
That's a wonderfully bit of constructed stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more stuff. I'm not like you need me to sell your book, but geez, I'm enjoying it a great deal.
I do. I'm glad it's selling well. It's fun. It's interesting that people pick out certain things and say, "This piece you can forget, but this is the great one." Or this one. To have you like it means a great deal.
Nicely done, Dick. Nice to see you again, sir.
Thank you, too.
Come back anytime.
Well, I'll try not to cough all over you next time.
No, that was nice.
It's like an amateur production of Camille here.
It was fine. We'll be back. Peter Tosh will be singing for you when we return.
It's always a pleasure to welcome my next guest to this program. He is an actor, a well-known television personality, plus a best-selling author. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Dick Cavett. Hi, Dick. Nice to see you. How are you? How you doing?
You know why I slipped there?
Why is that?
A woman from Texas was slaughtering a 4-week-old chicken backstage.
All she wanted to do was kill him and eat him.
Yeah,
That's right.
They looked delicious.
You know, I guess Thursday, Bob Hope was here.
In this very chair.
In that very chair. And,
Isn't that great?
And, and he just walked in, by the way. He just came walking in. The band started playing, and Bob sat down. And he said that over the weekend he was going to attend the Army-Navy football game with you.
I know. I could have fallen out of the chair that I was sitting in.
Now, was this true, or is...
Yep. Well, I was supposed to work on an article about him for TV Guide, and so spend some time with him. And he said, hey, why didn't Dick go down to the game with me? Army-Navy game. I hadn't planned to go, but he said fine, and I said fine, and I went. It's really the only way to go to a football game is with Bob Hope. The car comes to your house and gets you. It takes you to the plane with him. I don't mean to the airport, to the plane.
To the plane.
You get right to the plane.
Yeah.
And then you go into the plane. This is the next step. You get out of the plane. There's a motorcycle escort that takes you practically to your seat. I mean, it's just astonishing.
Now, when you're with him in a circumstance like that, and people get a glimpse of him, what is the reaction?
They're stunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of them, if they're anything over 35, let's say, have seen that face all their life, and they can't believe that it really exists in 3 dimensions. And there he is.
You know, when you and I were in New Orleans and Bob Hope was in New Orleans, I saw a little of that myself. He would leave one facility at the World's Fair there and go to another, and it was the strangest thing. People were actually, I've never seen anybody swoon, but this is as close as you would guess somebody could come to swooning when they saw the guy. And when he walked in here, the audience stood up and gave him an automatic standing ovation.
I nearly swooned the first time I saw him. It was in Lincoln, Nebraska. He came there with a show.
How old a person were you then?
I was a little fellow. This was last summer. I was probably in about 8th grade, I guess. And the ads kept saying, not a film, in person, but I couldn't believe it. And when he stepped on the stage with all that charisma, I felt goose flesh from... And other people's goose flesh, just from tip to toe.
What kind of a show was he doing?
He did a show where he followed a half hour of variety. And then there was a variety half, and then I thought, it is a swindle. There is no Bob Hope. And then the second half, they said, ladies and gentlemen, the star of our show, Bob Hope. Da, 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 da. And I felt the goose flesh, which I've gotten ever since when they introduced him.
You were a big fan of his from films, I would guess.
Yeah, I was a Bob Hope junkie from a groupie, I guess, what would you say, from the early road pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you go backstage, try to worm your way back to meet the guy?
As a matter of fact, I did. He was staying at the Cornhusker Hotel in Lincoln, Nebraska. And, by the way, you kept your key. And the Cornhusker always gets a hand. Have you noticed that?
Sure.
And I not, being a brash child, I went back and I worked my way up to where he was staying. I followed some people I saw with some Bob Hope envelopes, and got to the door, rapped on the door, and a lady came to the door and said, yes. I said, I want to see Mr. Hope.
You're in the 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm afraid Mr. Hope is retired for the evening. And I had him on the show one time, and I told him this, and I said, who was that red-headed woman who told me I couldn't come into your room? And he said, Dolores is watching. It was an older lady and a secretary of some sort. But one of my biggest thrills was when I really made Bob Hope laugh myself in a way that I could really remember for the rest of my life. He was sitting about where you are on a show of mine, and he was on his way to England to a command performance, and I said, people tend to forget that you were born in England. And I don't know how much that means to you, but do you still feel the importance of that? I mean, for example, when you hear God Save the Queen, does some part of you still rise? And time to go, Dick.
Yeah. And that was a big laugh for Bob.
That was a huge... he loved it.
Now, wait a minute.
But because he recognized how funny it was.
Now, what was... Now, spending the day... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was the last time I saw you, we were under 2 bare-breasted women in New Orleans.
Yeah, yeah. You know, that...
Does that deserve explanation?
Sure,
I don't know.
let's explain it. We were in New Orleans, and when we were both on this television show with Bob Hope.
That's right.
But the best part of that all that experience, aside from getting to actually work a little bit with Bob, which was interesting and fun and a nice experience, was being with Mr. Cavett here in New Orleans. This man, if you ever find yourself in the city along with Dick, hard to imagine, I know, but it could happen.
Could be somewhere, right?
You were the most gracious, most congenial, most knowledgeable guide I've ever been with or around.
Well, I think that's a wonderful town, and I've gotten to know it because my wife's relatives come from that area, and so I've seen each person who lived there. I've seen his own secret New Orleans, so I know all kinds of places to go.
Yeah.
The strangest experience I ever had there, though, was one night I was invited to a show of all drag queens, and they put on a 3-hour show in a very sinister bar. And at
Is this right in the French Quarter?
In the French Quarter, yeah. And at the end of the show, they invited all of us, there were a little group of us, friends of mine, up on stage. And
I bet they really had to twist your arm to get you up there, huh?
Well, listen, I didn't know. Have you ever made a total sex mistake? I'm not sure. What am I trying to say? I've not known that what I tried to say was gender mistake.
A gender mistake?
Yeah. Of not knowing that the person you've been talking to, maybe for some days, or have known off and on.
This has not happened.
Is not the sex you thought they were? Now, one of the assumptions we make is that we know what town we're in, we know what year it is, we know that the Earth goes around like this, and that the person we're talking to is one sex or the other.
Right.
And having been shocked that day to find out that a person that I thought was female was male was startling enough. Then to be in a whole room where all these bizarre creatures are on stage, and then you're called up on stage.
And what did you do? You're up there with them, and did you sing and dance and carry on?
Well, it was a sort of finale, and, you know, leg kicking like Rockettes, and I tried to join in the spirit of fun.
And your friends are out there?
And
they're out there watching you make a fool of yourself?
And I see headlines, you know, Cavett injured in drag show. And,
now, what are you doing? When will the article about Bob
The
Hope?
weirdest part, though, at the very end of the finale, I suddenly had this strange sensation that I was elevating. And I thought, someone has dropped something in my drink. I was just sky high, disoriented, and a strange sensation in the pelvic area.
Oh,
now,
Dick.
What I'm trying to say... No.
So now it's another one of those sex mistakes.
Please let me finish this. I've got to finish this.
Yeah.
What had happened was that one of the queens, as they don't mind being called...
They don't mind that.
...had stooped down behind me, a very muscular lady, and gotten me like this and lifted me up on her shoulders.
I see, yeah.
And I was up among the lights in more ways than one. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Now, would that be a way to go?
That is, yeah, that would be. If you had, checked out at that moment, that would have been an ugly obituary. No getting around that.
What do you...
We have to, we're desperately short here on time. I hate to interrupt.
What do you think of German history?
Well, there are some unfortunate parts to it, sure.
I knew you were rushing, and once on a German show with 4 seconds to go, the lady said to me, "We have time for one more question. What do you think of German history?" And I said, "I think it's cute." I knew she had 3 seconds to go.
Yeah.
No, this was reported all through Germany, the so witty Herr Cavett.
I think it's cute?
I think it's cute, yeah.
It's cute.
I've been asked out of more countries.
Now, wait a minute. Now, just let me see what's happened to our time. What's going on now?
Now you're really in trouble.
Are we screwed now, or do we... We edit. We edit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, it was good to see you. And thanks again for the swell time in New Orleans.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. We'll be right back.
Hotel accommodations for most guests of Late Night with David Letterman were furnished by Berkshire Place, an Omni Classic hotel, in exchange for this announcement. For reservations at Omni Hotels in the U.S. and Europe, call toll-free 800-228-2121.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck to you. And come back and see us again. And also, thanks to Pee Wee Herman. And my apologies to Dick Cavett. He was going to be here tonight.
Apologies. Hey. Thank you. Hey, how do you?
Dick Cavett, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I want to thank you. Quickly, just a sec. I want to thank you for covering for me and saying you ran out of time. I was late. But a guy backstage told me you talked to my aunt and uncle in Pennsylvania. Did you? Is that true?
That's right.
they're great
people.
Yeah, they're
Very nice people.
great fans of yours.
Now, when can you be on again?
They run the Charm School in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
When can you be on again?
When can you be here?
Well, I'm here, unfortunately, darn near every night.
I'm actually in Chicago tonight, believe it or not, through the magic of jet travel.
All right, well, folks, there
I was
will
going to
enjoy
tell
it.
you the funniest erotic story I've ever heard.
Oh, we don't have time.
Yeah.
You'll have to do it individually in the audience.
Shame.
Tomorrow night on the program, Paula Poundstone will be here, a very funny woman, and also Nina Hagen. And, Mr. Sports, Marv Albert will be joining us tomorrow night. That's it. And we'll try and reschedule Mr. Cavett's appearance. Thank you very much, Dick. My apologies.
That's all right. Great.
And
I know that joke you were trying to finish.
Yeah, do you have
It's like booking her and getting Richard Nickson instead.
Good night.
Yeah. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up later in this half hour, Dick Cavett will be here, so also Reuben Blades tomorrow. That'll be Thursday night. It will be our summer replacement show starring Ken Berry, John Hartford, and Kmar, the magician. That'll be tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, our big summer replacement show. Studio is full of these cable weasels now. Buddies of yours.
Les Garland's a nice guy.
Now, you know something, Eddie? Cable is not the way good Lord intended TV to be. A guy comes out to your house, hooks you up with the cable, then later, when you're gone, comes back and breaks in.
I was supposed to leave. I'm not leaving because I want.
You can stay right
I want to
there.
be like Ed McMahon on your show tonight. And I'll hoot at his jokes.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. My next guest is an actor, an author, a world traveler, and soon to be the host of a brand new show on USA Cable. Called The Dick Cavett Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Ed Mine's good friend, Mr. Dick Cavett. For being here. Nice to see you again. I appreciate you coming back. Now, is this true that you and Eddie are good friends?
Oh, yes.
Eddie. Oh, hello, Eddie Murphy. I've been a fan of yours for a very long time, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Now, how did you guys get to be friends? Are you, in fact, friends?
Is he putting you? Did he tell you we were friends?
Well, he told me that, and then we have reason to believe that you told us that.
That is funny. We're more than friends, David. And, I think that, no, you're laughing now, but it's a beautiful thing. And I think that Eddie and I have decided that it's maybe time to, well, maybe pictures speak louder than words.
Oh, good. Photos.
I don't know if they can see this or not. I had to buy that back today. Can you hold that up, maybe?
Let me see.
Let me see.
Kind of strange.
It looks like a local version of Miami Vice, is what it looks like. Oh my God!
No, we are
Eddie.
We are only good friends. That's the
Did
caption.
you MTV guys see this stuff?
Oh boy, is my image ruined.
Now,
and,
where did you
and
first
his
meet
too.
one another?
Look how pale this guy is. I didn't even know you had a shirt on until I looked close at the picture. Look at that.
Listen,
Get back
I
on
don't
that
think that's
picture.
fair. I didn't ask to be born this color.
Will you come back? Look how pale he is.
That is. I look like the late Harry Langdon, don't I?
Yeah, it looked like you'd just been released from the hospital and Eddie's taking care of you. He's gonna try and nurse you back to health.
Well, I look like the #1 Yaku of all time, don't I? Well,
Now, where did you first meet Eddie?
Eddie, Eddie
At the
and I-
Oscars.
No, it was the Emmys, wasn't it?
Some award show. You know how
Yeah.
much I hate them, but I go to all of them.
Yeah, no, Eddie and I actually met one night, I think it was on Park Avenue. We were getting the empty Coke cans so you can get 5 cents. And we met and, exchanged hefty bags. And we first met at that ceremony, and
The Emmy Awards.
he and Joan Rivers were hosting.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of hit it off, because our backgrounds are very similar. And he has a peculiar power over me that I didn't realize was sort of dangerous. We went out to He hangs out at night. He's a night person, and I'm not, but I stayed up later than I ever have. And every place we went, he would dare me to do something, and because I wanted him to like me, you know.
No, if you dare him to do something, he'll do anything that you dare him to do.
If you do.
I know. We were at a concert, see Diana Ross.
Oh, don't tell that.
And I said, I dared him to go up on stage, grab Diana Ross's butt. Man ran up on stage. He ran up on stage, grabbed Diana Ross's butt, and everybody knows him, so Diana Ross said, "Oh, Dick Cavett." I was sitting there. So, then, later on, he comes to do Saturday Night Live as a guest thing. Eddie Grant, the guy from the West Indies with the dreadlocks, he had dreadlocks sitting inside the makeup room. Dick Cavett goes, "How'd they get the dreadlocks in their hair?" I said, "They just don't comb their hair. They just let it knot up." And he says, "Well, I heard a rumor that they use goat feces in their hair." And I said, "Get out of here, man." And he said, "No, really." I said, "I dare you to ask Eddie Grant that."
Did I?
So he went inside the room and walked up to Eddie Grant, who's standing around with these Rastafarians around him. And I'm standing there laughing because Cavett's getting ready to get beat up, so... And he walks up to Eddie Grant and he goes, "How do you get that in your hair?" And Eddie Grant goes, "We just don't comb our hair. Just let it." And Cavett goes, "Really? I heard a rumor that you use goat feces in your hair." And the guys looked at Cavett and he goes, "Nah, man, that's not true."
Yeah.
And then Cavett looked at me and said, "Why'd you tell me that?" And walked out the room.
But it actually scared him. He turned the color I am in this picture. I've never used the word feces in my life.
Well, you can't say...
You cleaned it up.
You can't say... They'll bleep that out. They'll bleep it out.
Kids.
They'll bleep it out, and America will know what I said, even with the bleep. You can bleep it. If I go and you see bleep, you know what it means, so...
People are smarter than we give them credit for. The one I felt bad about, though, was there was a bald man at the bar in this place. Reddy was checking out the hogs, and...
I'm sorry. Eddie was checking out the what?
Oh, you don't know Negro talk?
Honeys, I think.
Oh, no. And,
The deaf girlies is another one.
oh, yeah, I know.
The what?
No, it's not.
We'll be down to trim.
That's all right. Just ignore me.
So, does David Letterman's name ring a bell? He said, "Go slap that bald man on the head." Well, this is beyond
infantile.
comedy. This is tiny.
Slapped his head. Slapped his head.
Here I am.
At a Carvel in New Jersey. The guy took the money, I opened up the cash register, went in the back. It's me and Dick, so I guess he didn't figure we was gonna steal. And I said, "I dare you to take $20 out the cash register." Took $20 out the cash register. Didn't give it back.
Now, this is a felony.
I did give. I mean to give it back.
This man stole. When they do the theft, y'all missing $20 from 2 months ago. Cavett.
Murphy.
Now, what did the bald guy do when you slapped
He did
him?
like Diana Ross. Dick Cavett. It's like everybody knows him. Everybody
You know, the
knows
weird
guy.
thing is his head felt better than Diana Ross's.
But you know, now wait a minute, hold it, kids.
No, I didn't mean that. I didn't. But if two bald head men sit together, they make an ass of themselves.
Yes,
you remember
they
that, don't you, David? We've certainly raised the tone of
Are
your
they gonna
show.
bleep the word he just said?
I don't know. It's very. Sometimes we have. It seems to be
You can
inconsistent.
say
sometimes we let
ass.
this go. Sometimes
They
we
probably
let
bleeped
that
it
go.
just now. So you can say it. They're gonna bleep the
They're
whole
gonna,
show.
they're gonna know what you said.
It's not like people at home is sitting there and see somebody say and go like, "I wonder what he said." I don't know why they bleep.
I think anything you say will probably stay in. I don't know about Dick though.
Yeah, because they feel I know better, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Is this noticeable?
What's that?
Well, I'm taking my life in my hands now. I found this in the Orient, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know whether to give it to you.
Oh,
Disgusting.
good Lord. Yeah, give it to me. Good idea, sure.
You think?
No, you explain this, Dick.
Well,
That stuff is still on the market. I was appalled.
This is rather
Here, you
shocking,
show
isn't
that
it?
to the folks
Yeah,
if you
Really?
like.
No, this is really going to put a damper on things. You told me to bring this
In
out.
Bangkok, you can still buy
you believe this?
It's called Darky Toothpaste. Yes. It's a picture of a brother with the biggest smile on his face. This is in Bangkok. So if you ever go to Bangkok, just walk up and punch somebody in the eye.
Let me see this stuff.
It's really, it's hard to
Excellent
believe, isn't it?
toothpaste.
I mean, in this day and age.
Good Lord. And what did you pay for this? This is, I can't make
It
Several
looked like
baht.
it said $10 on it.
No, 10 baht.
10 what?
10 what?
Baht.
10 baht. You were
Baht.
recently in Bangkok, apparently.
Oh, I was in Bangkok, yeah.
What's
that's
10 baht?
10 baht?
But it's certainly an attractive tube, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've done wonders with packaging over there in Bangkok.
Quite an amazing and original tube.
Yeah.
Toothpaste.
Colorful. It kind of leaps right out at you there. All right, I'll tell you what. Well, let's do a commercial here, and I want to hear more about, if we have time, more to talk to Mr. Cavett about his trip to Bangkok.
Well, that's a little...
Huh? We don't? We don't have any more time.
Can we buy time?
Well-
or is there a way of...
How interesting is it? Let's just
Well, look at
at
that sign that guy has.
More with Dick Cavett.
Yeah, I
Okay.
gave him that sign.
All right, we'll do a commercial here, and then we'll be right back. Don't worry, we're coming back. Now, Dick, we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
2 minutes. Can you tell us a great story about your trip to the Orient? An
Holy
exciting
moly. Well, I'm not sure about
2-minute
that.
story.
You probably mentioned that I have this show coming on
We took
USA
care of that
now,
already.
so that's
yeah.
out of the way.
Another cable operation.
Okay, I think I might talk about...
Did you meet the guy from MTV over there?
Yes, the guy in the funny threads.
Yeah.
That's an old-fashioned...
That's a nice suit that Les
It
has
is a
on.
very nice suit. Yeah, I wonder where he gets batteries
He's dressed
for
like
it.
a limo
That's
driver.
nice. No, in Bangkok, I think probably your audience would be most interested in hearing about 16th century jade sculpture or the soap baths,
Soap baths would be
or
good.
body
Sure.
body, as it's called in Bangkok.
What were you doing there, just as a tourist? Or
I went there for the Young Presidents Organization. They have about 50 speakers, everybody from esteemed congressmen and so on to people like, showbiz pantaloons like you and me and Eddie.
Showbiz pantaloons?
Pantaloons and jackanapeses. And somebody took me along, as an observer, of course, to one of the body places.
Now, what is that exactly?
Well, you go into a place, it seems like a hotel, sort of, and then there's one huge glass wall behind which, seated, even as these people in the audience are about 200 of the most beautiful women you can imagine in your wildest fantasy. And they're all sitting kind of like this, and you're not quite sure why. And then it turns out they're TV sets to keep them amused. They each have a number. The guy with the mic outside the window says, number 23 is, I think, be kind, and so-and-so, and this one is very nice, and so on. Why, men purchase these ladies for their services. Indeed. And the specialty of the place is some kind of erotic soap-like substance that they put all over the body of the person, as I found from asking around. And then the girl says,
These are perfectly legal, these places, I'm guessing.
Oh, well, maybe not actually, but they're there anyway, and everybody knows.
They operate with the knowledge of...
Patpong Street is the main... Well, maybe you're not... Are you supposed to plug streets in Bangkok? Anyway, and then what they do is, I'd always heard about this, slide up and down one's body.
Good Lord.
And, with this soap, this fabulous soap-like stuff.
You're lucky you lived to tell about it.
Absolutely ruined a blue suit of mine.
All right. Eddie, nice to see you again. Good luck on the MTV Awards, sir. Thank you for coming by, Mr. Cavett.
Are we being kissed
As
off
always,
now?
nice to see you again.
Okay.
And come back after another trip, sir.
Hey, that'd be
Anytime. We'll be back here with Ruben Blades, folks. Thank you, Paul. Very nice. If you're just joining us, tonight is Art Night. We have a great show. Dick Cavett will be out here in a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about this skull. It's on loan from the American Museum of Natural History. It is this animal, the Tyrannosaurus rex, lived during the late Cretaceous period. This was some 65 to 90 million years ago. This thing was walking around. The skull is 5 feet in length. These animals had very short forelimbs, which were probably useless, except for sealing envelopes, I'm guessing. And anyway, we'll have this all week. Once again, a reminder, the American Museum of Natural History is not affiliated with the American Broadcasting Company. Okay, there you go. My first guest tonight, it's always a pleasure to have this gentleman here. He is an author, a talk show host, and an actor, a man of the world. Please say hello to our old friend, Dick Cavett. Dick?
Dick Cavett, ladies and gentlemen. How have you been? I understand you're actually on vacation.
Well, I was sort of on vacation, yeah.
Where
By the way, I'm
do you
sorry
go
that-
on vacation?
I go, well, I love to go to Japan. That's my favorite place to go.
But that's not where you're on
I've only been
vacation
there
now.
one time,
Oh.
but I love it. And New Orleans. I often run into you in New Orleans.
One time.
We're about the only people who got money out of the World's Fair, aren't we, down there?
Oh, yeah, as it turns out. Yeah, that's
Still
right.
paying that off.
I'm not proud about it, though.
No.
So now, where did you
But
come
I was
in today?
Today,
Yeah.
I came in from the very tip of Long Island, where a guy invited me out to fish. And then I thought, I'm on the Letterman show tonight.
And you
And
raced
you
in.
sent a car,
All
which
the way
was
up
very
to,
nice.
How long a ride is that?
It's about 115 miles by normal car. By the 38 Studebaker that you sent, it's... no, actually, do you... I don't know, we've never talked about this off stage, but are you ever a little embarrassed by limos?
Yeah.
Stretch limos with the black windows in the back that you can't see in. And there's one thing I find fun with those, by the way. You know, suppose you're a pedestrian, and one of those limos goes by with the black windows, and they can see out, and you can't see you. Or they can see you. I mean, I always, if I'm the pedestrian, I pretend I can see someone in the back seat, and I go. It really spooks
It
them.
annoys people, yeah.
But I always feel in a limo like Basil Rathbone in Tale of Two Cities, that the revolution is going to break out when you're in your carriage, and they're going to, you know, especially in the 60s and 70s, the ABC would send a limo, and I'd always think, I'm with you people out in the street, you know, it's only, I don't like to ride in this thing. And often drivers don't know where they're going. But I may have had the classic limo experience. I had to go out 120 miles out the LIE in the middle of the night. After
Long
taking-
Island Expressway.
Right, the old LIE. And it was very, very late. Now, I'm going to have to use a word here that I hope won't upset your sense.
All right.
They're fairly
It won't
liberal.
upset me, whatever
I
it
could
is.
whisper it to, well, I'll just take
Just
a
go ahead
shot.
and say it.
I'm in the back with a very large dog and a very small dog, and the driver's in front. And about 30 miles out on the LIE, there's one of these gas station places, and the driver and my dog have to... Did they blip it? I can't tell. They have to make water. Well, so the driver gets out, and he doesn't know the dog has to go, but I do. And I think, tell me when you can see this coming, I think the driver knows that I got out with the dog when he did.
Right.
And the dog is a big dog, and he's sort of pulling me, pulls me a little out of sight of the car, is doing his business, and I thought, wouldn't it be funny if the guy didn't know I had gotten out? And
Yeah.
I pull the dog around the corner just in time to see the taillights of the limo go out into the traffic. Now, have you ever sat in a empty gas station with a man who only speaks Serbo-Croat, who says, comedy? And there's another guy with him, and they decide to have a pool, really, on whether they comes back in 10 minutes, 15, and whoever comes closest. It's cold. I have the dog. I have just a shirt.
You have one dog with you, another dog
big dog,
is
and
riding now. To
tiny
who
dog
knows
is now
where.
being treated luxuriously and going out in a stretch limo, giving orders. In fact. 10 minutes pass, and 15. Now, the first guy's out of the pool, and then 20. I won't dare drag this out, but an hour later, no one had a deck of cards, and we had no language in common, and I sat on Pennzoil cans in a room with a bare bulb for the next 3 hours. Now, I thought he died, obviously. Something. Nothing. I'm cut off from the world. It's now 2, 3 in the morning, and nothing. I finally have to call his boss, who's been driving a funeral in Philadelphia, or one member of it, I assume. And he's in the car without the action. And he is furious. He says, this guy, he comes and gets me. It takes him an hour. Now I've been sitting on the Pennzoil cans so long that I have ringlets. You can still faintly read Pennzoil 2 weeks later, where I was sitting on this box of cans. And finally, his boss gets there, still no word.
Yeah.
And I have a house way out there. Finally passing, about an hour and a half later, dawn is beginning to finger the sky.
How poetic this is getting to be.
Rosie fingering the dawn, and we have a lot of classical students in the audience, I see. We pass this other car, the guy gets out, he goes, oh, thank God. He got up into my yard, opened the back door, sees only a small dog, and figures I fell out. He had driven back looking for my crumpled corpse and that of the dog all the way. And the things that his boss said to him would make a sailor blind. And that, from now on, I said, I'm just not going to write in any more limos after that, because these things are always happening.
Now let me ask you.
That's the record, isn't it?
Now let me ask you a question. Is that a true story?
Absolutely. I cross my heart.
Because you know what it sounds like?
It sounds like
one
panel
of like the vanishing hitchhiker kind of thing. You know, one of those deals.
Or the guys whose grandmother died and they strapped her to the top of the car and somebody stole the car and they never did find out.
Now this actually happened.
This happened to me. You know how you can tell it's a real story? Because it has no finish. Now, if this were a panel story, I'd have a smashing punchline, and then I'd say, and I threw puffed rice at the wedding because the bride was pregnant.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
Or some punchline.
It's, I tell you what, we have to do a commercial here, and then we'll come back. It's art night, you know, and...
oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Not Linkletter.
No, but we'll continue here with Dick Cavett. Welcome back to the show. Dick Cavett is here, and everyone in our studio audience tonight will get an original work of art. And we'd like you to have that one. That one's from Helen. There you are.
Well, as Shakespeare said, I'm amazed and know not what to say.
Well, that's good enough for me. Now,
isn't it?
what were we talking about?
I don't want to sit on that.
No, let that dry a little bit.
Very lovely, and I'm sure that when it dries.
You know, I saw I think your first employer the other night, a couple of weeks ago.
Monsieur Jack Paar.
Jack Paar.
Oh, how is Jack?
Well, he's terrific. He's terrific.
He's dynamite, isn't he?
Energetic and entertaining and amusing.
You know something? People say.
Well, tell that story.
Which one?
The one how you got the job working with him.
Oh, that's weird.
When you were like 17.
It's dangerous to
tell
let
me tell it. No,
okay.
You tell it.
I'd like to hear the right version. Go ahead.
No, you tell it.
It's a strange thing. You know, once in your life, you always read, people know that something is a turning point. Mm-hmm. The moment I went in that door and saw that uniform, I knew I was going to go to the Foreign Legion.
No, that's not the story I was thinking of.
No. I was a guy. I can bring it around.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I was a copy boy at the time. I read in a column that Jack Paar worries more about his monologue than any other part of the show, and you can understand
He really would spend the day fretting and stewing and
he'd
pacing.
Send the jokes back, and one time Jane Mansfield's on. We had 25 introductions for her. He rejected them all, and finally used mine, which was "Here They Are, Jane Mansfield," which was sort of but the older ones. But I thought, I bet I can write a monologue. I was obsessed with Paar.
How old were you?
I always watched him. I was just out of college, whatever age you are then.
18, 19?
1 year. Yeah, working over there in time as a copy boy.
Right across the street.
$51 a week, David. Yeah. Big ones. And when I came through the turnstile in the bowels of this building, I thought this could be, pardon the expression, a turning point. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I thought, no, that was unconscious. I came up the elevators. I knew that Jack, from sneaking into his studio many times, usually used the back elevators.
And it was the studio just opposite us.
This corridor. Yeah. I thought, this is sort of stupid. People don't hand people monologues in real life. There was Paar, like magic. I said, Mr. Paar, and he said, yeah. He's always nervous before show.
You do a little Paar? Do a little.
Well, I don't want to do it, pal. It's too much. Yeah. No, I'm bored with that. I'm bored with that. Go, tell one about it. I'll tell it. That was Oscar Levant. So I hand him this thing, and I had, for something it told me to put it in a Time magazine envelope. That caught his eye. Yeah. A good point to remember in making your way. He said, okay, I'll look at it. I felt like an ass. He took it in his office. Then I heard him reading some of the jokes to Mitzi, his secretary. I sneaked into the audience. He comes out to the monologue. He takes out some papers, and it's a prepared bit. It's not mine. My heart sank. I start sinking in the seat. And that day, a ocean liner had been hijacked, and the headlines in the Post and the news were "Pirate Ship hedging pirate ship such and such. And I had written a line in there. Imagine the consternation of the passengers when they heard a voice come over the thing saying, "Attention, this is your pirate speaking."
Yeah.
Well, Jack was in the audience. A guy said, "What do you think about that pirate ship?" By sheer chance, and he said, "Da-da-da-da-da," pirate speaking. Got a huge laugh. I saw him in the elevator later, by sheer chance, of course. And which elevator he took, and he said, you should try that again, pal. Those are good. Not great. Good. He does me, so you'll have my... A week later, he hired me.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
That's one of the great American
But I hate
stories.
to tell it, because weeks after I do, people come up to me and say, I'm asking for the same chance.
Yeah.
And you read something like, a wedding bride was pregnant and they threw puffed rice or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, so now,
Only a fool.
After having listened to this story, if people want to give me material, instead of giving it to me, just write a little self-addressed stamped envelope, and I'll give you Jack Parr's address, and you can send it to him.
That's a help. You know what I started to say was, you must know that there are people, even in the journalism profession, who think these shows are written. And I could never figure this out. And this part is written for us. And obviously we make it up as we go along. Cheap joke. But
speaking of going along, we do
why.
have to go along here.
You know why it is?
No, why is that?
Sometimes you'll say to a guest, a singer, at rehearsal you were doing Mood Indigo, could you do that now?
Right.
People have heard the word rehearsal.
Oh, they assume
figure no one could be as witty as you and I are.
Oh, yeah.
So it must be written.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing.
All right, listen, Dick, come back and
I have
see
a
us when
feeling
you're
that
off. Yeah, but we barely scratched the surface here on your script.
But
no.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, enjoy your original work of art there, and have a good vacation. Come
You're
back.
telling me that my oil is drying.
We have
and
to leave now. But come back again soon. Nice to see you. Dick Cavett.
Hello. My name is Dick Cavett, and I hope you'll stay tuned. I'll be your host for the next half hour. I can't guarantee that you'll love the show, but who knows? You might switch channels and get something much worse. It's my duty now to announce that we've come to the end of the program. And all I can say is that I've enjoyed being your host this evening. And now you have to have me over. Anyway, the producers told me that the only way to end a show like this, the real way, is to come out and talk to the audience until you get a big laugh. We may be here a while, but I could do this. Let me recommend a restaurant for you. That would be something I could do. There's a little place about 2 blocks from here and 1 over, and it's unique. It's a very little place, but it's unique because the chef in the place is half Chinese and half German. Adolf Wong, I think is his name. And people come in and they do bad jokes, you know. They say, what do you got, sauerbraten and fuyang and stuff like that, you know. But I recommend it because there's nothing more delicious than Chinese-German food. The only problem is, an hour later, you're hungry for power. That's it. Thank you. Good night.
This portion of What's In has been brought to you by Bird's Eye's new Fruits Continental, firm, fresh-tasting fruit desserts that thaw in less than 15 minutes.